I had a question about morality because I don't see how like the T-Jump view of morality is like why an error theorist or a non-realist can't just accept sort of the
Because
substance
then
of
they'd
that.
become a moral realist. That would be the problem.
But you've said that there's no normativity on your view, right?
Yeah, well, like aughts, you don't need aughts, not in morality.
Right. So if an anti-realist is specifically talking about oughts and he says there are no mind-independent oughts, you agree with that.
Yeah,
So
they would just, that's fine, but that wouldn't be not moral realism. So if the only thing they're being an error theorist about is just oughts, that's fine. They could agree with mine, but they'd still be moral realists. So simply getting rid of oughts isn't
wait, but
rejection of moral realism.
no,
No,
it is a rejection
there
of
are
moral.
multiple
It is a
models.
rejected, but
There
it
are
is a
multiple
rejection
models
of
of moral
moral
realism.
realism.
No,
But
no. There are
no,
multiple models
it
of moral
wait, but
realism
I
that don't have
wasn't
oughts.
finished.
So
But
don't
it's
care. So there are multiple models of moral realism that don't have oughts. Simply rejecting oughts isn't a rejection of moral realism. It's a rejection of what those specific people define as moral realism. I don't care what they define as moral realism. They're idiots.
no, it is a rejection of moral realism if they take moral
No.
realism to be um about mind-independent oughts, right? It is a
No, again, you're
rejection.
confusing what they take moral realism to be and what moral realism is. If what they
Right?
take moral realism to be and they're just wrong about it, then
How
that
can they
doesn't
be
mean moral
wrong?
realism is defeated.
How can they be wrong? Like
If
definitions are
it's a
just
fact of the matter in the world, they don't get an opinion. They're just wrong about what they think it is. I think, oh, look, there's an ocean there in the distance, but it's a mirage. Um, and I'm just wrong. It's not an ocean.
no. But if all you mean by ocean is something that looks like an ocean, then you're not wrong. So you are correct when you say there's an ocean in the distance. If what you mean by
Right.
ocean is a body of
So, moral
water,
realist saying
then you
there is an
might be
ocean
wrong.
there. So if a moral realist is saying there is an ocean there, and all you mean by that is the appearance of an ocean, and you say, well, you see, whether or not there's actually an ocean there, that isn't in conflict with my appearance of the ocean. You're just an idiot. Like, what are you talking about? The moral realist is there is an object there, which is an objective fact in reality to which moral statements can correspond to. And you say, oh, but they don't have this one feature which I really like in my description or definition of that thing. Like, no one cares what you.
It's
No one cares.
no, it's the feature is what they mean when they talk about morality. Is they talking
Yeah,
about
they're
oughts?
idiots. They're
But
idiots.
but
They
no, but
don't get to define morality.
no, but I take definitions
If you
just to be
just go
arbitrary.
to
But like you could just
if you go,
define.
no, 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 stop, stop, stop. I've debunked this argument so many times. It's such a fucking dumbass argument. If you go to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Morality, it says there are multiple definitions of morality. There is no
That's
one
fine.
definition. So
That
those dumbasses who like to include oughts into morality is not the definition of moral realism. That is their preferred definition. It is not the only definition. It's not the correct definition. It is
what's
their
it mean for a
preferred
definition to be
definition.
correct?
So there are other definitions which are completely valid versions of moral realism which don't include their definition.
But what's it
They
mean?
can
What does it mean for a definition to be correct?
correspondence to reality.
So if I define a square as a three-sided object
Oh, you're a
within
dumbass. So I don't care about
what?
just abstract objects. A moral
No,
realist is saying morality is really there. It is a
look.
thing. If
If
I
I
describe an ocean as a potato, you're a dumbass. You're trying to describe correspond to a thing that is there.
look, if I define a triangle as a four-sided object with interior angles of 90 degrees, um,
To rejoin. I server mute. I own the server. It's not. It doesn't work that way. Um, so again, it doesn't matter. People, the fact that error theorists like to define oughts into morality does not mean that moral realism is rejected if there are no oughts. They define morality. It's not the only definition of morality. That's simple.
sorry, you cut out. I literally just couldn't hear you. Um, so if I was over
I
talking
wouldn't
you.
care either way, so I'm not offended by any insult, so I don't care.
Sorry. Okay. So, I mean, I take definitions just to be arbitrary. So I don't know what you mean when you say definition is wrong. Like if I define sort of um,
If you
like
defined
if I
water
make
as not H2O, you would just be wrong. Water,
what but
water as we
what
use it to refer to something in reality, and you say, if I said water is H2O, and you said, well, I define water as H2O plus aughts, and so if it doesn't have aughts,
what?
well, then it's not real water. You're just being a dumbass. Like, you don't care. Like, if you added this arbitrary construction to your definition, you don't
No.
care.
Okay, so let's say there's somebody who has lived in another country and they have a different language system, and when they use the word water, what they're referring to are squares, as we commonly understand them, namely a four-sided object with interior angles of 90 degrees. And they point at a picture I drew and they go, oh look, that's water. And I go, what are you talking about? There's no water there, you're wrong. And they say, oh no, what I mean by a water is a four-sided shape with interior angles of 90 degrees. I go, oh wow, you're correct, there is water there, if that's what you understand water to be. And so we don't actually disagree.
Yeah, that only applies if there isn't an already accepted definition used by the vast majority of people, which is consistent with
But
the moral realist position that you are not using. So if the vast majority of all English speakers, including the society that this person grew up in, use it to mean not what they're using it to mean, and they've just constructed their own personal subjective definitions and said, if you don't accept my personal subjective definition,
but do you agree with my scenario though? Because
yeah, so if only two people exist and no two and their societies are completely separate, yes, that's fine. But that's not the case. So what I'm arguing
so
is
they're
that
not
the moral,
disagreeing.
the
Just to be clear before we go off, like just to be clear.
no. So I'm going to clarify. My objection here is not that they can make up their own definition. That's fine. The problem is that the vast majority of people in philosophy and moral, ethical theory understand the definition of morality doesn't require that. Doesn't require normativity. It's not a thing. It doesn't. The definition of morality is not set in stone. There is no objective requirement for the definition of morality. The fact that error theorists like to make this an entailment in their preferred definition literally doesn't matter. So even if you refuted all odds, that would not refute moral realism. Would not defeat the position.
Yeah,
Because
if all
moral realism is a larger position that doesn't necessarily entail odds.
great. I mean, if all you mean by moral realism is that squares exist, of course you're
Now,
correct.
I mean by moral realism the same thing all professional philosophers mean by moral realism. All professional philosophers accept you don't need oughts in moral realism. It is already an accepted
Wait,
thing in the field. Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, look at the definition of morality. There is no one. There's no accepted perfect one definition. Literally says morality is used in two senses, a descriptive sense and a normative sense, and these are two different things.
Okay, sure.
They're both morality.
But
they're both moral realism.
sure, but okay, sure, that's fine. But if someone, if an error theorist is holding, saying that morality doesn't exist and what they mean by morality, sorry, objective morality doesn't exist and what they mean by objective morality is mind-independent oughts, then
And they are using the term incorrectly, and they are not using it in the way that philosophers use it.
Just let me finish, right? And that's what they mean, right? Now, okay, whatever they're using terms differently, that's fine. But they're not going to disagree with anything you say. Is that correct?
Sure, and that's fine.
Great. Okay.
That doesn't refute moral realism. That just means they have their own proprietary definition, which is wrong, and they're just misinterpreting that as not being moral realism.
Okay, that's great. But just to be clear, if an error theorist who thinks that objective morality is mind-independent oughts don't exist, they're going to agree with everything you say.
It's fine.
Great. And you're saying that morality can still exist as
yes,
like,
all professional philosophers say yes, morality can still exist. Moral realism, all professional philosophers say moralism can still exist. Only the dumbasses who think that oughts are entailed in morality think it can't.
well, I mean, that's just how they're using the terms. I still don't know.
And they're using it wrongly. They are incorrect. They are misusing the term.
Yeah, okay. So I think we need to go back to like what it means for a definition to be wrong. So you said that. Do you remember my
No,
example
so
with
in
the
society,
person with the
in
water?
professional philosophy, the definition of morality does not entail oughts. It is not there. Go to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Morality. It doesn't say oughts are required anywhere in here. So the
I
fact that
don't
they
know
are entailing
how
that is a superfluous, irrelevant entailment. If they are
that
wrong, they
that's
right.
fine. That's fine. Okay, I'm not. Yeah, I need to look at the empirics for that, but sure.
Stanford
Um,
Encyclopedia of
but
Philosophy definition of morality literally has a page on this. It literally says there is no one definition of morality.
sure, of course, that's true with a lot of definitions of philosophy. That's fine.
Yes.
But okay, so
Which means
you're
error
saying
theorists
that
are not correct to
someone
say that
who
moral realism is false.
so you're saying that somebody who uses the term objective morality to refer to mind independent oughts are wrong. And what do you mean by wrong?
And it does not correspond to the definition used in academic philosophy. Their definition is a proprietary definition which is not entailed by anybody in the field.
Sure, but I mean, someone like the case of the person who was raised in a different country who points at a drawing I said and said that's water to refer to a square that I drew. They're not wrong,
Yeah,
right?
no. If
But
they
you
grew
agreed
up
that
in
they weren't
America,
wrong.
if they grew up in America and they're attempting to use a definition that corresponds to academic philosophy, they are failing.
No,
They've failed at this, and that's what they're trying to do. That the error
no.
theorists are attempting to use moral realism in an academic
Wait.
sense
Let's just go
in the
back to
way
the
of
water
academic philosophy.
example. So,
I don't care. I've
somebody
debunked this
who,
dumbass argument so many times. I'm so tired of it. There is a way it's used in academic philosophy. The way the more the error theorists are using it, they are attempting to use it in an academic sense, and they are failing. They've made a mistake. They've made an error. They think in academic philosophy, oughts are entailed in moral realism. They are wrong.
sure, that's great. If all you mean by moral realism is that squares exist, of course. But look, let's just go back to
No,
the
dumbass.
point.
Holy shit. Stop strawmanning my position. I mean moral realism as in all academic philosophers mean moral realism.
But a lot of them,
The error theorists are the one who just defined it as a square dumbass position that has nothing to do with anything related to the academic position of moral realism. My definition is the correct academic definition. Errors
I'm
is the
not,
superfluous thing
I'm
that's
not,
arbitrary on nothingness.
I'm not saying your definition is that morality is a square. I'm just saying that if someone did say that morality is a
I've
square,
already addressed
then
this. They are wrong because they are attempting to say something academic. They are
we can't.
failing at this.
I can't have a conversation if I can't finish the sentence.
That's because I've debunked this enough times that you should understand it. Like, there's nothing more to be said here. I'm just going to tell you the same thing. If you don't understand
Sure.
it, then there's nothing more to say.
No, I think there's more to say. So, like, if I mean, let's just go back to the water example. So you agree
No,
that
I don't
the
care
person
about
who
subjective definitions here. The only thing I'm
the
saying is when
definitions
they
are
are wrong.
subjective.
No. I don't care. No, it's not. In
Wait,
society,
definitions
in our
aren't
society,
subjective.
no, stop. You're trying to make a word meaningful to the society. So if the society uses a word, you're trying to accurately convey an idea that the society represents. They are not doing it.
Okay,
I
great.
don't give a shit about moral. I don't give a shit about subjectivism and possible subjective definitions. It's irrelevant.
But
What I care about is,
everything.
are they accurately using the definition as it's used in professional philosophy? The answer is no. But their subjective preferences, I don't care.
But
They're wrong.
but everything you've
If
said is
if
consistent.
someone defines like modus ponens as I like potatoes, they're wrong. That's not what modus ponens is. You're a dumbass. I don't care if they made up their own subjective definition. They're just a dumbass.
But
If there's
look,
already an accepted academic way in which this term is used, and they are using it in a different way, they're a dumbass. That's all I need.
sure, I might agree that they're a dumbass, but I'm not going to agree that they're wrong. They're just like using words in a very strange way. That's fine. If that's all, if all you're saying is that they're using, but look, if all you're saying is that they're using words in a strange way, then and you can demonstrate that like all philosophers don't entail oughts in morality, then sure, okay, error theorists are using morality in a strange way. That's fine. That's great. I might accept that. In fact, I will accept that. But everything you've said is consistent with with definitions being subjective, right? It's as you said, right?
So
there are definitions of
someone on
things
Discord comes
that
to you
a
and says,
lot of
modus
people
ponens
agree
is...
with, right?
Wait, stop.
There is a
Someone
lot of
comes to you
people
on
who
Discord and
agree
says,
with these
I'm going to
terms.
mute you. Stop. If someone comes to you on Discord and says, modus ponens is I'm a potato, are you going to say you're wrong? No, it's not.
What?
That is incorrect. Are those correct responses to someone who says modus ponens is a potato? Or modus ponens is P, therefore P, therefore P, therefore not P? They say that. Are you going to say that is wrong? You are mistaken.
Yeah, I'm gonna say
That's the
that.
correct response.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that's wrong. But what I mean by wrong,
Yes.
but look,
But what if they just
But
said is,
wait,
oh, I just
just
made up
one
my own
second. But
definition. Are
look,
they less wrong now?
um, are they less?
No.
No, look, I'm gonna say they're wrong. But what I mean by wrong is that they're not tracking
This is
what. Look,
philosobabble
just
bullshit.
look.
Use normal English.
Wait,
Yes, they
just
are
look.
wrong. It is right to say they are wrong.
Look, I'm gonna say they're
It is right for
wrong,
me to
but
say the
all
moral realists are wrong, just like it's or
I'm gonna
moral
say they're wrong.
anti-realists.
I'm gonna say they're wrong, but all I mean by wrong is that they're not tracking what the standard understanding of modus ponens is.
Great, congratulations. That's exactly what I'm saying. So if you need to
Great,
go
that's
through this
fine. Then
super
I might agree
pedantic,
with you. Then if all
great.
you're saying is that error
You
theorists
should
are
have
wrong
understood that like a
in the
long time
sense,
ago.
but if all you're saying is that error theorists are not tracking what people sort of mean when they say morality, then okay, sure. But the point is that the substance of their belief isn't challenged at all. They're still gonna call themselves error theorists. I
It
don't
doesn't
see.
matter. It's irrelevant to the conversation. The conversation between error theorists and moral realists is, are there stance independent moral truths? That's the question. Yes, there are stance independent moral truths. Does that entail oughts? No. If they think it does, they're wrong. So their objection is not to oughts. Their objection is to a statement. Are there stance independent moral truths? Now, there are also other entailments they make in that statement. That statement in general is understood by society, doesn't entail all these assumptions they have. They've made up their own subjective definition. And so I can't say they're right ever because it makes this straw man of this sentence that is understood in a different way by the vast majority of humans. They are wrong because the sentence they say, even though they mean something completely different, as it is interpreted by the rest of society, is not correct in
Yeah,
the
it
way that
doesn't.
they mean it.
Yeah, it doesn't correspond to what other people are using by the term, but it doesn't mean that they're saying something false when they say morality
So
doesn't exist. If all they
if
mean
if a
by
dumbass comes and says modus ponens is p plus p plus p plus potato, I'm going to say you're a dumbass. I don't care. You're wrong. You are factually wrong. I don't care if he's made up his own subjective language. Doesn't matter. He's still wrong. It's just how basic communication works. If you use a generalized phrase which is understood by society in a different proprietary way, everybody's going to say you're wrong. You don't need to do this complicated bullshit discussion about how definitions work or what subjective meaning is or the subjective arbitrariness of natural language. It's all bullshit. They are wrong, period. That is the correct thing to say. It is 100% correct to say. And none of their intentions matter.
but if all you mean by wrong is that they're not tracking what people generally
No, I
mean,
mean, they are wrong. They are just factually wrong. They are dumbasses, and you need to go no further. You need no explanation. You need no correct philosophical analysis of the position. If they say modus ponens is p plus p plus p plus potato, they're a dumbass. They're wrong. Full stop. You need to mean
and
nothing more.
and just to be clear, what you mean by wrong is that they're not tracking what people generally mean when they say modus ponens.
Sure.
Okay, great.
They're
Well, then,
dummy
yeah, then
idiots
sure,
who
I can agree with
understand
you. Yeah,
common English.
but they haven't said anything like a proposition that's false. Is what I'm saying.
Someone had the proposition modus ponens is p plus p plus p plus potato. That proposition is false. This is
No, but
fair and accurate to say that.
no, I don't think that's fair because if that's what they mean by modus ponens,
This
then
is
they're
just
correct. But they're
this
just
is
not
how English
tracking what
works. So
generally.
if you can't grant just common sense English language, then you're just not doing anything productive in philosophy. You've just left all rational conversation behind. It doesn't correspond like rational understanding of common sense English. It's bullshit, meaningless philosobabble.
Look,
It's
I
all you've been saying
understand.
this entire time. It's completely a waste of time, a bullshit argument. No one can learn anything from this conversation. It's complete garbage.
I understand the intuitive force of what you're saying, but when you sort of dig down to it, I think it's important, right? Because
No,
like
it's not. Why would this? Why would anything about this be important? It's completely a waste of time.
well, I'm not convinced that's true. Um,
I'm asked. That wasn't. I forget the word term. It was a serious question. Like, why do you think
it was a rhetorical
this?
question.
Yeah, rhetorical. It was not a rhetorical question. It's a legitimate question. What possible benefit is there to such a pedantic, nonsensical analysis of the meaning of what you mean by wrong here? It's irrelevant. Completely 100% irrelevant.
Hey,
The
hey, Lols, you mind if I ask T-Jump a question real quick before he goes?
Yeah, sure, that's fine. Can I just, I guess, say one final thing and then I'll wrap up?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess I'll just finish by saying that um, if what you want to say is that um, you're trying to find a definition that sort of tracks what people mean when they say morality, then okay.
it's
Um,
just a trivially true fact of language.
sure. Um, but I just don't. I just yeah. I mean, like if someone says the Earth is flat and what they mean by flat is that it's a ball, then they're going to be correct. If someone says the Earth is flat and what they mean by flat is a pancake, then they're going to be false, right? So in order to understand if someone is saying something false or something just correct, you need to actually understand what they mean by the terms. Um, and that's my I guess biggest my biggest point here is that I just don't think
I
you're
think I think that was proven false by the private language argument of Wittgenstein. Like, there is no private language. Meanings are correspondent to other meanings in society, and so if you're using it in some proprietary way that doesn't correspond to society, and your meaning is what the society interprets that statement to mean, not what you specifically intended to mean.
yeah, okay, well maybe we can continue at another time.